Earth emerges from darkness. North America turns into view. The east glows, the west fades. Roughly 4 in 5 Americans live east of this divide, not a border on any political map. Mountains, water, climate, and history created it. Geography favors one choice and raises another's cost. Near the 100th meridian, the east glows while the west's lights thin out. Now add the 2020 populations of these 6 vast interior states. Together, they still had fewer people than New York City alone. 6 states, 1 city. Start with water. Pacific air rises over western mountains, dropping rain and snow on windward slopes. Beyond the peaks, that air descends, warms and dries, creating vast rain shadows. The east receives steady moisture from the Gulf and Atlantic. Climate does not erase settlement. But across much of the west, it makes farming, water systems, and large cities more expensive to sustain. Climate explains only half the pattern. The 13 colonies that founded the United States sat on the Atlantic. Natural harbors opened trade with Europe. Population, capital, and infrastructure accumulated there first. The West Coast built major ports of its own, but immediately inland stood high mountains and broad deserts. Transport was costly. Geography met history, putting America's 2 halves on different tracks. Maps distort instinct. Look at Greenland. Earth is nearly spherical. A map is flat. Press a curved surface onto a plane, and something must distort. Shape, area, distance, or direction, no flat map can preserve all 4. In 1569, Gerardus Mercator solved a navigation problem. A ship could hold a constant compass bearing. Mercator made constant bearings straight. Web Mercator remains common on digital maps. The trade-off is severe. The farther a place lies from the equator, the more its area is exaggerated. Greenland looks almost as large as Africa. In reality, Africa is nearly 14 times larger. At equal scale, Africa is about 1.8 times the size of Russia. The United States fits. China fits. India fits. Add parts of Europe. Africa still isn't full. Local angles survive. The deception is forgetting its purpose. The Pan-American Highway runs from Alaska towards South America. Across roughly 19,000 miles, it races almost uninterrupted toward eastern Panama. But at Yavisa, the road simply ends. It does not reappear until near Turbo, Colombia. Between them, 66 roadless miles. The gap looks tiny. On the ground, immense. Dense rainforest, flooded swamps, swollen rivers, steep, unstable slopes. A road would demand deep foundations and drainage, long bridges, culverts, walls, reinforced roadbed, and then constant repair. Technically, it could be built. But engineering has never been the whole equation. A highway could fragment protected ecosystems. It could also increase pressure on indigenous lands and communities. Criminal networks profit from dangerous migration here. Darién is difficult to cross, but not impossible. First, the economic cost. Then, nature's cost. The human cost. And the security cost. Together, those costs outweigh the gap's 66 miles. Eastern Europe opens into broad lowlands. From northern Germany through Poland, connected lowlands open eastward. They continue through Belarus and Ukraine toward Western Russia. No giant mountain chain, no ocean, and no single natural barrier seals the entire approach. As the land widens eastward, a defender faces more possible routes and a longer front to protect. Exposure shaped strategic memory. Napoleon's forces invaded Russia across this plain in 1812. Distance, mud, cold, and open terrain swallowed the 1812 campaign. Nazi Germany invaded in 1941. The campaigns were different, but the landscape again magnified distance and exposure. Two invasions shaped strategy. Distance became defense. Ukraine can widen or narrow that depth. Ukraine is sovereign. Fear never justifies invasion. If the plain explains fear, Crimea shows the value of position. On its southwest coast, Sevastopol is sheltered by deep natural bays. Those bays connect to deep naval infrastructure built over generations. Crimea's position extends reach across the Black Sea. Sevastopol has long hosted Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Beneath military geography lies energy. Naval access, offshore zones, and strategic position overlap here. Ukraine was estimated to hold about 39 trillion cubic feet of gas. Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. Most states reject that claim. Gas alone did not drive it. Then, the water paradox. Before 2014, the canal supplied about 85% of Crimea's fresh water. Most of it supported agriculture. Ukraine blocked the flow after annexation. For years, the canal ran dry. Russian forces reopened it. Then, Kakhovka Dam was destroyed. Crimea can be seized yet still need mainland water. Geography creates vulnerability, but people pull the trigger. Violence remains a choice. Bermuda is not in the Caribbean. It sits alone in the North Atlantic. About 650 miles separate it from Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Beneath Bermuda lies an ancient volcano capped by porous limestone. Rainwater slips through the rock. Porous rock prevents reliable rivers and lakes. Bermuda's main water source falls from the sky. Those stepped white roofs are infrastructure, channeling rain toward the gutter. Rain runs across the roof, into gutters, and down to a storage tank beneath the building. Bermuda's building rules require most roof area to collect rain. Here, the roof is the water system. A water-scarce island also prices global risk. Reinsurance is insurance for insurance companies. When a hurricane creates billions in claims, reinsurance spreads the shock. Hamilton brings capital. Actuaries model risk. Law structures each deal. Rules strengthen resilience. Bermuda imports goods. Global business forms nearly 30% of its economy. North Korea's border closes around a person, layer by layer. To the south stands the militarized DMZ. Many defectors historically went north, crossing the Yalu or Tumen rivers before moving through China. But the route is dangerous, uncertain, and exposed. Crossing the river never guarantees safety. Since 2020, new fences and patrol roads have appeared. In China, defectors risk detention and forced return. But the hardest border to see is not on a map, it is in your pocket. Domestic phones run modified Android and connect to a controlled internal network, not the open internet. On some phones, unsigned files can be blocked or deleted. Researchers documented Trace Viewer on some devices. It takes screenshots during use. The archive keeps growing. Each capture stays hidden. The user cannot delete it. The phone controls your view. It saves a hidden record. Outside media was criminalized. Penalties vary by offense. Some cases involve forced labor. Distribution can mean death. A frozen river crossing, layered fences, sweeping patrols. The opening shrinks. First, a phone. Then come the fences. Then the frozen river. Finally, the DMZ. A government needs no wall around everyone if every pocket contains a checkpoint. Climate shapes settlement. Maps distort scale. Rainforest breaks a highway. Open plains spread fear. Harbors add leverage. A roof gathers rain. It feeds a reservoir. Phones become borders. 6 stories, 1 logic. Geography distributes pressure unevenly. It does not write the future. It does not decide who becomes rich, who starts a war, or who controls whom. Geography sets the board. People choose and own the consequences. Which story deserves its own episode? America's West? Darién? Crimea? Bermuda? North Korea? Drop one name in the comments.